I've started the meeting. You can log in, but they are still setting it up. So I enter the meeting again.
Hare Krishna.
The speaker is open. Hare Krishna, is the mic audible? Okay.
Yes, Abhijit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Sudama Prabhuji. Is
Yes, yes, Abhijit Prabhuji.
the translations are set up now?
Can you make me hot for some time, please?
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me do that now. Okay, Sudama Prabhu, you are the host.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Abhijit Prabhu is already set.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Are you set up?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we are just setting up the slides. We'll be ready in a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, can everyone see the slide?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Abhijit Prabhu.
Yes, sir.
Can you select the interpreter language there for Maharaj English, please?
Okay.
Yeah, so that the interpreter can communicate with Maharaj. Okay, thank you.
1 second.
What
So,
is this thing? Can you what?
Prabhuji, where do I select the interpreter language?
At the bottom of the screen, there is an interpreter, something like that, language. At the bottom of your screen.
Pause recording, floating, optimize.
Next to the
Bottom of
thought.
participants?
Yeah,
Okay.
interpretation, something like that.
You want to record also.
Yes, recording is on. Reduce my volume. Prabhuji, I am not able to locate. I see chat, pause recording, breakout rooms, hide video panel, hide meeting controls. I don't see anything called interpreter language.
Oh, okay, okay.
For
It might.
Maharaj, I see
Mhm.
some rename button and then participants, mute, start video. I don't see interpreter language, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay. It must be because of the old Zoom software. It's okay. It's okay then. We'll manage.
Okay, otherwise I can do, let me see if my cell phone has the, but then we won't have the slides. Give me 1 second, Prabhuji, let me figure it out. Language interpretation. Okay, Prabhuji, what I'll do is I'll let Maharaj will speak on my mobile phone and we'll see the slides from the desktop.
Okay, okay. That's great.
All right, so Maharaj, I said English for Maharaj, right?
Yes, correct.
English. And then do I say mute original audio? Sudama Prabhuji, do I say mute original audio?
So I think sound is coming from two devices.
No, it is still.
It is echoing though.
Bisa, bisa Prabhuji. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This one. Hare Krishna. Now is it fine, Sudama Prabhu?
Yeah.
Does everything look fine to you regarding interpretation?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Say that again, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhu, very loud and clear.
Okay.
Your voice is very loud and clear. How about my voice? Can you hear my voice clearly? All right, very nice. So now we are ready to begin. I think everyone can see the slides here, right? Yes. Yes, please go ahead and make the announcement, Prabhu. You can go ahead and make the announcement.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu and Mataji, please select the English for your language, yeah, if you are English speaking. At the bottom of your screen, there is interpreters. Please select English.
Bisa Prabhuji.
Cha Prabhu.
Yes. From which audio do you see that, Prabhu? The static, is it still now? Even now, do you hear the static? Oh, that's because is it better now? I was a little away from the phone. I was doing something else on the computer. The static is there really? Hare Krishna, is the static like the flow? Is still there, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Coba saya mute ya, saya coba mute ya. Oh, can you make a host?
You can mute everyone and then just unmute us.
I'm not a host now or co-host, Prabhuji. I couldn't do that.
Okay. I'll make you the host. I'll just make you the host.
We will admit these 3 people.
Yes, Maharaj, you can click on admit all. Okay, Sudama Prabhuji is the. Make co-host. Okay, Sudama Prabhu, you are now co-host. And to the interpreter, I just want to make sure you have the correct source. The source for the audio should be Mayapur Institute, Indonesia. That one.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Yes, now you can move it to the side maybe, so that you can see the slides.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
If you click on this and drag it, this over here, yes, and then just drag it, or just cancel it.
It's cancelled, yeah.
Yes, that. You can see the slide.
Okay, we can begin now.
Maharaj, let's start your video.
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our first session on the Bhakti Sastri course. This first session, we're going to be introducing the subject matter of the Nectar of Instruction. So we have about 8 to 10 lessons. Not sure exactly how it will work out, because these classes are 2-hour classes. Previously, I was teaching it, usually we would have 3 hours. This time we're 2 hours a class. So I'm not sure how many classes we'll need. We may need more, we may do less. Let's see how it goes. So, what's it later? Huh?
Spotlighted your video for everyone. Would you like to unmute? You can say later, not this, because this one is muted, but the actual mic is on.
Okay. So let's begin. We have introductory prayers for the Nectar of Instruction. I'll show you in the slide. Oh, wait. What happened? Slides.
But if you do the slideshow, can everyone see the slideshow?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, we
Is
can.
everyone able to see?
Actually, it's blank. It's just a red screen.
Just a red screen.
So the slideshow is invisible to everyone, is it?
Yeah, here also red screen.
Oh yes. Right. So what happens is that we'll have to actually share the whole screen instead of just that one application. Mhm. Yes.
Stop the display.
What we'll do is in the screen share, we share the desktop, and that way the slideshow will share.
Yeah.
We share the desktop.
Yeah.
Now we start the slideshow.
Okay, sorry about that. So here we have our second verse of the Goswami Astikam. Srinivasacharya composed this Goswami Astikam, glorifying the Goswamis. If you look on the Nectar of Devotion, at the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, you'll see this verse is included, because it summarizes nicely the activities of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nana Shastra Vicharinai Kanipanau Sat Dharma Samstapakau Lokanam Itakarinau Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakarau Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajanan Nandena Mataliko Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghu Jago Sri Jiva Gopalago. Very beautiful verse, and devotees will like to recite these verses regularly. I will just read through the translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. When Sasvarupa Goswami and Hridayananda Goswami were initiated as sannyasis way back in 1972, I think it was, in Los Angeles, at that time they asked Srila Prabhupada what it meant to be a Goswami. And Srila Prabhupada told them, you should refer to this Goswami Astikam song, and you can understand what should be the activities of a Goswami. So this is important for us in studying also Nectar of Instruction. We want to understand something more about the mood and the activities of a Goswami, because Goswami means one who can control the senses. All right, so beginning lesson 1, we'll be covering the preface. First, we want to look closely at the preface and see exactly what Srila Prabhupada wanted when what his thinking was when he translated this book and presented this book for the Krishna consciousness movement. Then we will go into the first text. So we've titled the first lesson, Controlling the Six Urges by Krishna Consciousness. Just to introduce the subject matter of the Nectar of Instruction, we want to explain something about the origin of this book, where it came from. Of course, it's written by Srila Rupa Goswami. He is given the credit, but he got it actually from the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we're told about this. It's mentioned in the diary of Govinda. Govinda was the personal servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was actually also the godbrother of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he had been an initiated disciple of Ishwara Puri. And when Ishwara Puri left the body, at that time he told Govinda that he should go and serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Govinda came to Puri and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was reluctant to accept the godbrother to give him personal service. But it was decided that the order of the spiritual master was more important than the simple etiquette of not serving a godbrother, because the spiritual master Ishwara Puri had directly ordered him to go and serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he came there to be the servant. And he kept a diary, like many others, like Murari Gupta's diary and Swarup Damodar's diary. Govinda also kept diary, just like we're seeing some of the devotees who are associated with Srila Prabhupada. We have Hari Sori Prabhu's diary, Tamal Krishna Goswami's diary. Satsvarupa Maharaj also wrote extensively about his experiences with Srila Prabhupada. So this is a custom. So Govinda had written about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how Lord Chaitanya had come to Jagannath Puri. And of course, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spent like 18 years in Jagannath Puri, and many of those years were spent in a mood of great separation, feeling the separation from Lord Krishna, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to experience the mood of Srimati Radharani, to experience what we would call Gopi Baba or Radha Baba. So in the mood of separation, he would often feel very much overwhelmed and almost like he's disturbed and depressed, but it was actually in his ecstasy. So at that time, the two very intimate friends of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I won't say servants, but very intimate, they're described as servitors, but very closely connected to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai. They were constantly with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his final years. While he was in that mood of ecstasy, they were the only ones who knew how to pacify him. And they would pacify him by singing different verses and reciting different songs which they knew, which were relevant to his mood. So we can understand Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, they were very highly advanced in Krishna consciousness. It said Swarup Damodar was the incarnate, he was the form of Vishaka Devi, and Ramananda Rai was, oh no, Swarup Damodar was Lalita and Ramananda Rai was Vishaka Gopi. So they came to be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to help him to cultivate this mood of Radha Bhava. So Govinda's diary described that one time Mahaprabhu was sitting with his devotees on the shore of the ocean, and they were hearing Krishna Katha. And the mood on the ocean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see the ocean. Of course, the water of the ocean is dark blue, and it's the color of the Yamuna River. So he would be reminded by the ocean of the Yamuna River. And then the sand dunes, some of the sand dunes at the shore on the beach there at Jagannath Puri, they reminded him of Govardhan Hill. And then there were also gardens around the beach with nice trees, different dense trees lining the shore of the ocean. So in this way, the mood was very similar to what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had seen when he had visited Vrindavan. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, and Krishna had spent many years there in Vrindavan. So Mahaprabhu, well, we could say Krishna is eternally in Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing that mood of Vrindavan, and in that mood, feeling the mood of Vrindavan, he also would think more of Krishna, and he would lament that he was separate from Krishna. Because that is the mood of the gopis. The mood of the gopis is service in separation. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in this separation, the devotees with him, like Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, they would pacify him. And when he became peaceful, then he instructed the devotees, as it's mentioned here, in a soft, in a very sweet voice. He instructed the gopis. He gave all the devotees instruction. And the instructions which he gave are collected here by Rupa Goswami and put in the form of Sri Upadesh Amrita. Actually, this Upadesh Amrita is like a condensed version of the Nectar of Devotion, or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Rupa Goswami also wrote. Srila Prabhupada was eager to present the writings of Rupa Goswami for the world. And it was Srila Prabhupada who presented Rupa Goswami's writings in the English language. Before Srila Prabhupada, practically nobody had published anything about Rupa Goswami. Oh, there's one edition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Bon Maharaj. He'd also published an edition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But Srila Prabhupada wanted to present not only Rupa Goswami's teaching, but the other teaching, because to simply understand Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu without other books would be very difficult. So Upadeshamrita is like the summary of the teachings of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The Upadeshamrita, we have 11 verses. Srila Rupa Goswami is considered the head of the 6 Goswamis. Although he's younger brother to Sanatan, Sanatan is the oldest, but still Rupa Goswami is considered the leader of the Goswamis. Well, the 2 brothers, they work together really, but generally they consider Rupa Goswami to be on a higher, to be given more importance than Sanatan Goswami. And then Jiva Goswami came, he was the nephew, and Jiva Goswami stayed with Rupa Goswami and served him. Jiva Goswami was the nephew, we said, of Rupa and Sanatan. His father, Anupam, had already passed away. So he came there and took shelter of Rupa Goswami while he was in Vrindavan, and they stayed in Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada made a great contribution by translating this book into the English language. Here's a quote from the commentary. The Anuvriti commentary. When you go through Prabhupada's purports, you'll often see this word, how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says in his Anuvriti. Anuvriti is the name of the commentary which he had written on the Upadeshamrita. Upadeshamrita had already been commented on by, there was one Goswami, Radharaman Goswami, from the temple in Vrindavan. He was a scholarly Goswami, Kas Goswami, and he also wrote a commentary on Upadeshamrita. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wrote commentary on Upadeshamrita. And after Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also wrote commentary on Upadeshamrita. So we can understand how this Upadeshamrita is very important book for the Gaudiya Vaishnava, giving the essence of the teachings of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and commented on by such great acharyas. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, Srila Rupa Goswami collected the essence of all the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and offered it as a gift to the genuine sadhakas. Everyone familiar with the term sadhakas? Sadhakas mean practitioners of bhakti yoga, or simply we could say devotees. Devotees who regularly practice the regulated principles like hearing and chanting. I have to use this. Srila Prabhupada has written in the preface, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as Shikshastika, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeshamrita so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. So you're all familiar, I hope, with the Shikshastikam, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed. So in the same way, Rupa Goswami has given us Upadesh Amrita. We should be we're very much indebted to Goswami for giving us this wonderful book. He wants us all to become pure Vaishnavas. And then from a letter written by Srila Prabhupada to a disciple, the Nectar of Instruction has come out very nicely. This was 1970, 75, 76. Okay, so that's when the book was published. Later on, first the Nectar of Devotion came out much earlier. And then Prabhupada was inspired to write this Nectar of Instruction. Actually, one of the devotees, one of his disciples, had been associating with the Gaudiya Math, and he'd seen this Nectar of Instruction, and he'd suggested to Prabhupada that it would be very good if he would also do it. And Prabhupada took up the advice, took up the suggestion. And so Prabhupada says, this book has come out very nice. He said, it's very important and must be immediately read by all devotees. In the near future, we shall introduce Bhakti Sastri examination for second initiation. And this shall be one of the required books of study. Anyone who reads it will immediately understand what Krishna consciousness is. So we point out, Bhakti Sastri course is actually good preparation for the second initiation. Now we do get people coming uninitiated sometimes. They come in and take the course. It's okay, they want to learn something. They can always take it again before they get second initiation. You know, it's always good to review these things. One of my godbrothers, he attended the Bhakti Sastri just recently here in Mayapur. He was actually the instructor many years ago, and he pioneered the development of the Mayapur Institute. But he came back and he took the Bhakti Sastri course again, like 15 years later. And he said it was wonderful. He said he really enjoyed it. And so don't think it's a waste of time to study something twice, but rather, just like reading, read once, read twice, read 3 times. You start to know it. Some devotees say that once you take Bhakti Sastri course, then you have to teach it. And after you've taught it 4 or 5 times, then you start to know it a bit better. Okay. So here you can see the title of the different classes which we're studying. We've shown here 7 classes. It won't necessarily, you know, as I said, those were 3-hour classes. We won't be able to do it exactly the same way, but you can see the topics which we're going to cover. First of all, control of the 6 urges. That's text 1. Then text 2 and 3, we will look at the different items which are favorable and unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness. Then number 4, different kinds of loving exchange between one devotee and another. Now these first 4 verses are all memorization slokas, meaning you should learn the Sanskrit and the translation. And you will be tested on these things for the first 4 verses. For this book, the first 4 verses are expected to be memorized fully, and you should know well the meaning. Then 5 and 6 goes on to talk about relationships between devotees, recognizing different devotees on different levels, how we deal with different devotees. And then we'll talk more about advancing in these different ways, how we can progress, and what things we need to do to make spiritual progress. And then the final few verses, 9 to 11, we will look at very advanced levels of Bhakti Yoga, describes more about Raga Bhakti, spontaneous devotion to the Lord, which is leading to love of God. Because the goal of Krishna consciousness is we want to develop love for Krishna. So the higher stages of consciousness are important for us. We have to consider that somehow we have to also become advanced. We have to also develop our taste for Krishna consciousness. Very important. Okay, so that's the different courses. Now I want to spend some time talking about Rupa Goswami and his position. As I said, Srila Prabhupada introduced us to Rupa Goswami. Practically nobody had ever heard of Rupa Goswami in the Western world, hardly. Maybe a Sanskrit scholar. But how many of them are there? So here's a quote. In Goloka Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani is lovingly served by 8 principal gopis, of whom Lalita Sakhi is her dearest friend. These intimate maidservants of Srimati Radhika are assisted by 8 manjaris, with Sri Rupa Manjari being the leader. All right, so in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Srimati Radharani is served by the 8 gopis, just like we see in Mayapur, we see the Astasakis. Lalita is very dear friend, Vishaka also very dear friend of Radharani. But in the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, there are 8 manjaris, and the head of the manjaris is Rupa Manjari. Rupa Manjari is Rupa Goswami in his spiritual body. In the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Manjari becomes Rupa Goswami. But in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. And the Manjaris, they're the young gopis. They're young. They've not yet reached puberty. So when Radha and Krishna have their pastimes, they won't feel any enviousness. They won't have any feelings towards it. The fact that Radha and Krishna are having loving affairs. So the Manjaris, they are able to serve Radha and Krishna in very intimate manners, where the other gopis are not quite so qualified to do that. And Rupa Goswami, he's the leader of the Manjari. Since Lord Chaitanya's time, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas in their spiritual Manjari forms served Lalita, Vishaka, and Radhasham Sundar under the direction of Sri Rupa Manjari or Rupa Goswami. Here is a listing of the spiritual forms of the prominent Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. So you can see the list, long list, from Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, that's the 6 Goswamis. Then Krishnadas Kaviraj, Lokanath Goswami, Narottam Das, who came after, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti came after Narottam Das, and then Jagannath Das Babaji, and then Bhakti Vinod, the pioneer of Krishna consciousness in the modern age. Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they're all recognized as being Manjaris. Different Manjaris, different names, the names are getting recognized by the different devotees. So we can understand the mood of these great acharyas, that they cultivated this love for Krishna. They cultivated this loving service mood for Krishna. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahma with the details of the creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge. Maybe you're familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam, how in the introductory verse, Srila Vyasadeva says, Tenhe Brahma Hridaye Adikavaye. The Lord imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahma. So this is at the beginning of the creation. So he gave the Vedic knowledge to Lord Brahma. And so comparison is made between giving the knowledge to Lord Brahma and how Lord Chaitanya empowers Rupa Goswami to write the books about Krishna and Vrindavan. Right? It's written there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a quote from Srila Prabhupada's purport in Madhya Lila. In exactly the same way, the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan. Activities almost lost to memory. In this way, he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Madhya Lila. So this, as it mentioned here, Lord Chaitanya wanted to revive what had almost been lost in the course of time, because 5,000 years had elapsed between Lord Krishna and about 4,500 years between Lord Krishna appearing on the earth and then Lord Chaitanya coming. So a lot of things had been lost, and the Lord has to come to revive these things. And he used Rupa Goswami to write these different books about the activities of Krishna and Vrindavan, to give people the opportunity to hear about Lord Krishna, about his divine pastime. Another quote from the Nectar of Instruction. This Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. So Srila Prabhupada is giving Rupa Goswami the credit of conducting this Krishna consciousness movement. We ask, how? How is this possible? Here, it's explained here in Prabhupada's lecture from the Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada explains, we are called Rupanuga, right? Devotees. We are known as Rupanugas. Anuga means following, going, following the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. So as Rupa Goswami is following his predecessor, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we have to follow our predecessor. Then we will be successful. Our predecessor means Rupa Goswami and the other acharyas coming in the line from Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and our own Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. So just as we are Prabhupada Nugas, Prabhupada Nuga means also Rupa Nuga. The great acharyas all follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the pranam mantra to Bhaktivinoda. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namane Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. Right? We offer our respects to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is the transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Sri Rupa Goswami. Rupanuga variety. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Rupanuga, and then Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, in one of his pranam mantras, there are 4 pranam mantras for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. Madhurya Ujjvala Premajya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida Sri Gora Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate. All right. We offer our obeisances unto the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, who delivers devotional service, enriched with love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami. And another one. Namaste Gauravani Srimurtaye Dinatarine Rupa Noga Virupa Apa Siddhanta Danta Harine. Right? I offer my obeisances unto you, personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Sri Rupa Goswami. We want to know, what are these teachings enunciated by Rupa Goswami? Very important for us. So there's a pastime in Prabhupada Leela. Prabhupada was initiated in 1933. This was in Allahabad. At that time, Prabhupada had his Prayag pharmacy. He was doing some chemical business, and he'd met the Gaudiya Math. And Prabhupada had already met Bhaktisiddhanta earlier, but that was like 1922, many years before. So between that time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had built up the Gaudiya Math. When Srila Prabhupada first met them, Prabhupada had been a follower of Gandhi. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had encouraged him to understand the importance and the urgency of the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then Prabhupada describes he was a young man, recently married with young children, and he was not able to do much, although he was greatly impressed with the power and the direct, forceful preaching of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. His purity had a great impact on him. So when they met again, 1933, then at that time Srila Prabhupada was initiated, and when he was initiated, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said to him that he should study carefully the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Prabhupada describes this book, Nectar of Devotion, which is the English version of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He said this is the handbook for the devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement. So very important for all of us. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati encouraged all of his disciples to learn the teachings of Rupa and Raghunath and Sanatana Goswami and preach their teaching. So that message was given directly to our founder Acharya, Bhaktivedanta Swami, when he was initiated. And he never forgot that. That was 1933 he was initiated. And then when Prabhupada went to America, one of the first books he published was the Nectar of Devotion. 1970, I think it was, or 69, he published the Nectar of Devotion. So Prabhupada brought with him 3 volumes of Bhagavatam from India, but the first book to be actually published there in America, well, apart from the abridged Bhagavad Gita, which Macmillan had published, but the first book which the BVT published was the Nectar of Devotion. So moving on, Srila Prabhupada took sannyas, 59, and then he moved into the Radha Damodar temple. And it was in the Radha Damodar temple, he was translating and writing Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada also told us that he was planning his preaching. He was planning how to spread Krishna consciousness, how to distribute it around the world. He was preparing himself to go out and to go to the West for preaching. But the fact that he stayed at the Radha Damodar temple was very significant, because from Prabhupada's room, he could overlook the samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami. The samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami and his bhajan kutir, they were just very close to where Srila Prabhupada's room was. So Prabhupada would daily look over the samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami. When he would sit and take prasadam, he'd be looking at Srila Rupa Goswami's samadhi. And that regular remembrance of Srila Rupa Goswami had a big impact in Srila Prabhupada's preaching mission. That Srila Prabhupada said that he got a lot of inspiration and empowerment directly from Srila Rupa Goswami. And it gave him the foundation, gave him the determination that he had to go to the West and continue his preaching. Develop this Krishna consciousness movement. And we'll see here you can see Prabhupada actually had an experience where Srila Rupa Goswami had actually appeared to him. And Rupa Goswami had told him, we've written here, don't worry about anything. Go ahead and travel to the West and preach. Just preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the chanting of Hare Krishna. You'll be successful, I guarantee, because I will be right with you all the time. So Prabhupada had this kind of experience, direct darshan from Rupa Goswami, and the instruction, the inspiration from Rupa Goswami that he should go ahead, that he should write his books, and he should go and preach and get Krishna consciousness spread all across the globe. So we want to look now at the purpose of this book, this Upadesh Amrita. What's actually the purpose? What are we going to get from it? We've mentioned here, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadesh Amrita to guide our activities. Here, first one, that we may become perfect Goswamis. Are you interested? Become a perfect Goswami? At least, all devotees, we should be able to control our senses. We may become pure Vaishnavas, and it will be easier to make our life successful. So these 3 points are made in the preface by Srila Prabhupada. He makes these 3 points. In writing this book, Rupa Goswami had these things in mind. He would like us all to become Goswamis, pure Vaishnavas, and make our lives successful. That's the mood of the Goswamis. They're full of compassion for the fallen souls. So to help us, he wrote this book. So in the preface, Srila Prabhupada, we've written here, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. The attitude of the follower. It's a very, very important point, which comes up all the time. So Srila Prabhupada brought this out in the preface, telling us that our advancement, which we all want, right? That's why you're taking the Bhakti Sastri course. We want to make some advancement in Krishna consciousness. So this advancement depends on the attitude. We have to have the right attitude to everything. If the attitude is not right, then it will be very difficult to make advancement. How can we make advancement? So we have to get the attitude right. But what do we mean when we talk about attitude? Just to look at it closely, here's the dictionary definition of attitude. A settled way of thinking or feeling. We've got to have the right mood, the attitude, thinking, feeling, right? It's got to be correct. How could the study of Upadeshamrita help to improve our attitude in Krishna consciousness? Certainly we hope so. After studying Upadeshamrita, we hope that you'll feel that you've improved your attitude. So here's a clue. Srila Prabhupada writes, just after talking about the importance of attitude, Srila Prabhupada says, a follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Perfect Goswami. You don't have to be a sannyasi, you don't have to take initiation, you don't have to wear the dress like you see in the picture here, Rupa Goswami in his loincloth with a water pot. You don't have to go that far, but you have to control the mind and sense. We have to have the proper behavior, standards of behavior. Here's an interesting verse from the 11th canto we've quoted. 11th canto means Maharaj Nimi is receiving instructions from the 9 Yogendras. This time, is this?
Hare Krishna, we will request all the participants to please mute your audio. I think he has muted now.
Okay. So in relation to attitude, this verse is here from the 11th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Understanding about, let's put the translation up a bit easier. We want to understand about how the material energy overwhelms us. Sometimes we become very disturbed by the material energy. We almost have like a fear of the material world. But if we take shelter of Krishna, there's no need for fear. The important thing is to surrender to Krishna. So the 9 Yogendras are telling Maharaj Nimi that when the living entity is attracted by the material energy, where the living entity desires to enjoy independently of Krishna, which is separate from Krishna, he is overpowered by fear. That's the nature of material life. Fear, we're full of fear, we're fearful. We're going to lose our enjoyment. We're not going to be successful. We don't need to have that kind of fear. Srila Prabhupada was asked by one devotee, what do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna? Prabhupada replied immediately, I feel no fear. Very important. So mentioned here also, when we forget Krishna, we're attracted by the material energy, then we're overpowered by fear. Because we're separated from Krishna by the material energy, our conception of life is reversed. In other words, instead of thinking we're the servant of Krishna, we think we're the enjoyer of the material world. We think we're Krishna's competitor, it says here. So to correct this mistake, the intelligent person should engage in devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master. And he should accept the orders of that spiritual master as his life and soul. And this is simple instruction helping us to overcome the fearful existence of material life. The problem, uncontrolled senses, pulling us in many different directions. Here you can see the artistic impression, our different senses, how they're dragging us, the five senses, pulling us in different directions. The tongue, the ears, the eyes, the nose, the touch. We want to enjoy. Described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the desire to gratify our own senses is just simply lust, or what we would say, kama. That's when we serve our own senses, it's just lust. But just like a fish cannot be happy outside water, you can see the fish. We're giving it so many nice things, but still he's not satisfied. The fish is thinking, just put me back in the sea. I don't want this. I don't want money. I don't want all your pornography. I don't want Coca-Cola and beer. I don't want things to eat. I just simply want to go back in the sea. So that's the thinking. The same way we're trying to enjoy material life, we're trying to find pleasure where there's no real pleasure. Real pleasure is not so much here in the material world. We can overcome this material world by developing our devotional service. So here's another famous verse from Prahlad Maharaj, where Prahlad Maharaj had been asked by his father, where did you get this Krishna consciousness from? And Prahlad Maharaj says, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to material life make progress towards hellish conditions. They simply chew what is already being chewed. Their inclination towards Krishna can never be aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. So when the senses are uncontrolled, they're never going to be able to develop Krishna consciousness. Another quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is love, prema. Krishna prema, right? The topmost level of bhakti yoga, prema bhakti. So when we simply desire to use our senses for the service of Lord Krishna, that is real love. Quoting Narottam Das, Vishaya chadiya kabe shubha habimon kabe hama hareboy Sri Vrindavana. When my mind is purified, being freed from material desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the love of Radha and Krishna. And then my spiritual life will be successful. So we have to purify our mind. We have to become freed from all these desires, everything. We have a nice quote here. One of the senior ladies in our Krishna consciousness movement, Srimati Mataji, in relation to discussing what advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. What does it actually mean? She describes here, this is her quote, I'll just read it to you. The attitude of the Gaudiya Vaishnava is antithetical to, in other words, it's just opposite to that of any other spiritual practitioner. The karmis, yogis, jnanis, and impersonalists all attempt to attain the goal by their own power and expertise, by trying to manipulate and control the material energy. But the introspective Gaudiya Vaishnava realizes that true success will be attained when we take shelter of the internal energy and surrender to Krishna. So this should be the attitude where we just simply want to take shelter of Krishna, surrender to Krishna. The other people, the karmic, jnani, yogis, they're different. Their path is very different. They're trying to do everything by their own self. But for a devotee of Krishna, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it's all based on surrender, taking shelter. In essence, the Gaudiya culture is one of surrender, consciously and favorably, bringing the body and mind into line with the needs of the soul, depending on Krishna and his bona fide representatives in our lives. So she's very nicely explained here how we should develop the proper mood. And she continues, Srila Rupa Goswami kindly, very clearly explains the practicalities of this culture of surrender, both in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Upadeshamrita. Upadeshamrita deals specifically with the attitude, the vision, the mindset. We need to make genuine advancement in Krishna consciousness. So this is how we understand when Prabhupada is talking about the attitude, that we have that genuine desire to want to advance in Krishna consciousness. Before we go on to text one, that's pretty much covering everything in the preface. Are there any questions so far? Anybody? If there's any questions, maybe you could put them on the chat.
Bisa langsung. Bagaimana contoh tidak merasakan rasa takut ketika mengucapkan mantra Hare Krishna itu, Bro?
Hare Krishna, is there a question being translated? Hare Krishna, no response. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay,
Yes, Maharaj.
glad to hear you. Okay, so if there are no questions, we'll just continue. Are there
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so we're going to go into text number 1. Here's the verse. We can chant it together. You can also read it with me. Vacho vegam manasakrodha vegam jiva
Vegam manasakro davegam.
jiva vegam udaropasta vegam
Vegam mudaro pasta vegam.
itam vegam yogisya satira
Etam vegam
Sarvam api
Imam Pritivim Sasisya.
Sarvam apurnam nitipim sasisya.
No sound.
Maharaj, you're on mute. We can't hear you, Maharaj.
I don't know how it got muted. Sorry about that.
You can hear me now?
I think they were reciting the verse. Until that
Yes.
point, they were hearing.
Uh-huh.
But maybe once you started reading the translation, maybe at that point.
Who can hear now?
You can hear me okay now, Prabhus?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're hearing okay. So, translation, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, actions of anger, urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Okay, we may question, oh, I'm not interested to make disciples. I don't want to be guru. It's all right, but still we have to learn to control the mind and senses. And we have to understand what is actually, what needs to be controlled. So Rupa Goswami has listed the different items. First of all, he begins with Vachovegam, the urge to speak. Oh, people love to speak, don't they? You know, from the beginning of birth, little children, they love to speak. As soon as they start speaking, when they go to school, teachers have a very difficult time trying to get them to stop talking, to be quiet, because they love to speak. And we see also how much ladies also like to speak a lot. Ladies can really talk sometimes. Women, when they get together, they can talk. And a woman with her husband, she'll talk a lot sometimes. Generally, it's like that. People speak a lot. Generally, they say women speak much more than the men. Men have they have to listen. The women talk. So speaking is an urge, and to control it it's a challenge. Trying to get a child not to talk, it's a big challenge. Trying to tell women not to talk, also very big challenge. But we have to understand the nature of the tongue, that it's active, one of the ways in which it's active is in speech. And then manasa, the mind. The mind's demands. The mind's demands. But the function of the mind is desire. And the desires come in stages: thinking, feeling, willing. It's all different demands, what the mind wants. And the mind, of course, is always active, more than the tongue. When we go to sleep, usually, we may not talk. Some people talk even in their sleep, but the mind is still active, even in sleep. We have so many thoughts there in the mind. So, sober person has to also control the demands of the mind. We have to understand what is reasonable for us. What are we allowed? What should the mind be given? What to give it and what shouldn't? What should it not be given? We have to learn to control and regulate these thoughts. And then krodha vegam, the urge of anger. From Bhagavad Gita, we learn 3 gates to hell: lust, anger, and greed. So anger comes when we don't get what we want, our demands are not satisfied, and the result is we become angry. Bhagavad Gita tells us anger is the younger brother of lust. Jayato vishayam pumsa sangas teshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama krodo vijayate. In the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes how the living entity falls down. He says, while contemplating the objects of the senses. In other words, we allow the mind to dwell on sense objects. And we look at things for our enjoyment, our physical enjoyment, or our mental enjoyment. We contemplate them in the mind, we become attached to them. From the attachment, lust develops, and then from lust comes anger. When we don't get, or when it doesn't work out the way we want, we become angry. So this is another urge which has to be controlled, the actions of anger, or krodha vigam, the urge of anger. You know, people become angry, they can do some very nasty things. They can, you know, say terrible things, and they can do terrible things, all due to their anger, uncontrolled anger. So it has to be controlled. Then Rupa Goswami goes on to describe the other urge of the tongue, not just simply speaking, but the urge of the tongue, which is more in relation to tasting. That when we're not speaking, we always think about eating. And we like to eat things, more things than we actually need. We like to eat all kinds of opulent foodstuffs. Sometimes we like to eat a lot of mahaprasadam. We like to fill the belly more than it actually needs. So this is not jiva vegam. Controlling the tongue. Srila Prabhupada, when I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, Srila Prabhupada had trained the devotees not to eat any grains after 4 o'clock in the evening. Anything taken after 4 o'clock in the evening should not be grains. You could take some little pieces of fruit, or you could take some glass of hot milk, but you don't want to take heavy grains in the night. So Srila Prabhupada had instructed devotees like that. So controlling the tongue, being careful. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little at the same time. Have to be some regulation. The tongue likes to taste, and often we may eat things which are really not so desirable, which are not so good for us. And when the tongue is not controlled, then it means you put more weight on the belly. The belly becomes full. With more weight in the belly, then the result is the genitals are not properly controlled. So, jiva vigam udaropashta vegam. The belly and the genital, all in one line, the tongue, the belly, genitals, and they're related. If the tongue is not controlled, then the belly is filled up, and then the more weight on the genital, and it's not controlled. When the genitals are not controlled, then you don't get good quality children, which are very much needed in family life. We want to have nice children. So, etan viganyo vishaheta dira. We have to become dira. We have to become sober. We have to learn to tolerate these urges. Right. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about dira, tolerating the heat and the cold, happiness and distress, without, or he talks about Dihinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praktir diras tatra namuyati. As the body changes from boyhood to youth to old age, and at the time of death one gives up the body, takes another body, but the sober person, one who is dhira, he is not disturbed by these things. So we all want to become dhira. We want to become sober. We want to learn to tolerate these different situations, controlling the tongue, controlling the mind, controlling anger, and the tongue, the belly, genitals. So our Krishna consciousness movement is meant for training the devotees. When we join Krishna consciousness, if you stay within the temple at least, it's a very good training, and we learn to tolerate all these different urges which come by living together with the devotees and being regulated in our eating and sleeping, talking. Everything is regulated. The whole day, activities, morning to night, all regulated in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada in the purport talks about Christians, how they like to go to church, and in the Catholic Church at least, they will confess their sins. They will offer some confession. So Prabhupada said this is like prayaschit, just like in Hindu society, there is prayaschit. You want to do some atonement to make up for some sinful things which we have done before. So Srila Prabhupada explains, people may go to church to confess their sin, and then they're given some activity. They may be told to chant Hail Marys, to chant on their rosary, or to read the scriptures, or to give some charity. But it does not take away their desire for sin. That they come back again the next week and they did more sin. And every week they come and confess their sins. So it shows that the teachings they're getting are they're not successful. So the actual atonement, the actual prayaschit, which is necessary to take away the desire for sin, is the awakening of Krishna consciousness. If one cannot stop sinning, then whatever spiritual activities that he's doing are not successful. The real test of the atonement is that we have no more desire for sinful life, that we can give up the sin. So we don't see that in the other traditions. So Prabhupada states in the purport, real atonement involves coming to real knowledge. And for this, there is a standard process. And we have to come to the proper knowledge. If we have got proper knowledge, then we will be convinced that the sinful activities are wrong and we'll give them up. So what is that standard process? Prabhupada explains one can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy. In other words, by brahmacharya, and by controlling the mind, controlling the senses, giving up one's possessions in charity, being truthful, keeping clean, and doing yoga asanas. These are some different methods, different ways in which we can cultivate knowledge or cultivate our Krishna consciousness. These things, these activities, of course, will be difficult for most people to do these things. It would take them be a lot of time, a lot of trouble. But if they take immediately to Krishna consciousness, they can immediately get the benefit of all of these activities. We have to, Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada explains here from the purport, quoted from the purport. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. Refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, he's given us this easy process, right? Easy. What you have to do is just get the association of pure devotees. Pure devotees means the Krishna conscious devotees. And in their association, then naturally we will follow these regulative principles. And by following these Krishna conscious principles, no illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, no intoxication. By following these things, what does the devotee do? We're simply we engage in service for the Supreme Lord. Devotees join the Krishna consciousness movement. They don't think about these sinful activities because they're so satisfied, they're so happy engaging in devotional service. Going out every day, chanting, distributing books, programs in the temple, going to people's homes and preaching, so many different activities, cooking for Krishna, cleaning for Krishna, organizing festivals for Krishna. This is the business of devotees. They're so busy working for Krishna, they don't think about these sinful activities because they're so satisfied in the service of Krishna. So this is the method given by Rupa Goswami. Simply engage in devotional activities and all the good results, all the good qualities will come. Here's a quote from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. As I said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has one commentary. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also has his commentary on Upadeshamrita. So his commentary is mentioned here. This is the Payusha Varshina Vritti, which is the name given to his commentary on the Upadeshamrita. And we quote here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the devotees are intent on yukta vairagya, and thus they remain aloof from dry renunciation. Therefore, the regulation to abandon all contact with the sense objects does not pertain to them. Yukta vairagya. What do we mean by yukta vairagya? Yukta vairagya means renunciation in relation to Krishna. Right? There's different kinds of renunciation. For example, there's falgu vairagya, which is false or artificial renunciation. Like the monkey may appear to be very renounced because the monkey lives in the tree, is naked, but the monkeys are not renounced at all. So they're an example of falgu vairagya. Sometimes people, we see them in the dress of holy people like sadhus, but they're smoking or they're doing sinful activities. So falgu vairagya. But yukta vairagya is what is taught by Rupa Goswami and the acharyas, means renunciation in relation to Krishna. It is not dry renunciation. You see, what their renunciation is dry because other people who don't do yukta vairagya, they do this other falgu vairagya. They, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, They abandon all contact with the sense objects. In other words, they won't speak, maybe they won't see, they won't look, they want to go away from the world, go away from all the women, and go away to the mountains and live in a cave. They think they can be renounced like that. I met one young man one time. He told me he'd been living in a cave for a month. He said after he came out of the cave, he had much more material desires than he ever had in the beginning. So that's dry renunciation, to stop all activities, to go away from the world. I will not see any bright lights. I won't go to the city. I'm just going to stay away in the jungle, in the forest, like that. So that's dry renunciation. Oh, don't eat any sweet. Oh, don't take any tasty food. Just eat, very austere. That kind of renunciation, that is dry renunciation. So that is not how devotees renounce. The devotees' renunciation is in relation to Krishna. We don't say don't eat, but we say eat Krishna prasadam. Of course, when you eat Krishna prasadam, don't be greedy just to take the best thing, that, oh, I must have the sweet, oh, I must have this thing which is cooked with the ghee, oh, I don't want that, oh no, that's salty, oh, that's bitter, no, I don't want that, just give me the very delicious, sweet, tasty thing. Being particular, but no, that's not good. We should, in Krishna consciousness, we see prasadam equally. When Prabhupada would tell devotees to distribute his prasadam, he would say, mix it all up, mix everything up. The salty and the sweet and the bitter and the dal and the rice, mix everything up. And then just give everybody a little piece. Don't let people be picky. Well, give me that. Oh, I want that. No, just, it's prasadam. It's all absolute. So that is yukta vairagya. Renunciation in relation to Krishna. Just like Ekadasi, we fast on Ekadasi, that is yukta vairagya. But to do fasting artificially every day, that is dry renunciation. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains how devotees control their urges, just like the genitals. Genitals can also be used in Krishna consciousness. We're not against devotees having children. In fact, it's very good. It's very important. But we want Krishna conscious children. So devotees should produce good quality children by conceiving children in a religious manner. That's very important. Attracting a pure soul into the womb of one's wife, and the wife can then give birth to a very saintly child who can easily become a devotee. That is yukta vairagya. And using the tongue to speak about Krishna, to chant the holy name, to speak about things in relation to Krishna. So in this way, we learn to control the senses. So here's a question. Let's have a little exercise for you now, because we don't have a lot of time left. And if possible, we'll try to finish this section tonight. So here's a question. You're at a public function and have been told the cheese is vegetarian. However, after the meal, you find out the cheese actually contained animal rennet. How do you react? What's your attitude? What do you do? So you can make a note of this, think about it for a little while. We've got a few more questions going to put to you. Right? I hope you all have some paper there and a pen, at least, or you have your cameras, take a picture, copy it. right? We want to know what you're going to do. What should be your attitude? You blow your top, you curse the host, curse the host and say, I'm never coming to your house again. I'm never going to eat your house again. Or I'm never coming to this. I knew I should never have come to this function. You people, you all cheated me. You told me it was vegetarian. You had me eat rennet. Oh no, I'll have to suffer. What do we do? How do we react? What's your attitude? Any responses there? Someone like to speak? Like to unmute yourself and give us a response?
Dear devotees, you can raise your hand like we had practiced yesterday, and then Maharaj will ask one of you in turns. So we have at least 2 persons who have raised their hands, and we can see them here. So then Maharaj can call out their names and they can contribute.
Which one's the?
This is Sanatan Krishnan. He has this blue hand, and the other one is Roshan Pradhan. These two are.
Okay. So Sanatan Krishna Prabhu, you've raised your hand. You'd like to respond?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Pranam. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm not sure if you remember. So Maharaj, in this situation, I would usually, over time, I've realized maybe a few years back, I may have blown my top off, as you mentioned. But I think with time, I've realized that I've been reading some of Prabhupada's purports as well, where he says that if you make a mistake, it's all right to repent, but also understand that you should not make this mistake going forward. So I think the lesson from this particular situation would be that next time in a particular situation, when in doubt, I think Chanakya also says, I think when you're in doubt, it's better not to do something rather than actually taking that action. So I think obviously that situation is already passed. So the only thing that you can do after that is repent for the mistake, but also ensure that you don't make the mistake going forward.
Right. That's a good point. Yes, very nice. And don't make the mistake in the future. Yeah, very good.
So Roshan Pradhan. The second one, second person.
There was a Maraji also had a hand up?
Right now, only 2 hands are up.
Oh, okay.
I saw a few more hands were up a few moments back.
They cancel.
No, they are Radha Kishori Mataji.
Oh, Radha Kishori Maraji, we would like to hear from a Maraji, a lady. Would you like to respond?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. As Prabhu just said, actually because the situation is gone, we cannot do anything about it. I would rather seek forgiveness from Krishna for not having checked properly and having trusted whoever. And I would try to chant more rounds to atone for it.
Okay, very good. Yes, very nice. You'd like to do more chanting to atone for it. Very nice. Thank you.
We have actually quite a few now. We have among Mataji's Kirti Mataji, Archana, Bhakti, Radha Mataji.
Okay.
Among Prabhus, we have Roshan Pradhan and Priya Govinda.
Okay, Roshan Pradhan Prabhu. Anything else you'd like to add?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In this situation, like as the mistake has been done, so it's better to be careful from the next time.
Yes, right. We have to be careful from the next time. Yes.
And this Kirti Mataji, Archana, Bhakti, Radha.
Kirti Mataji, would like to respond? Anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. In this case, if I'm not sure, then I will avoid to eat such things.
Future, yeah? We didn't hear what you said in the beginning. The voice broke. Could you say it again?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, in this case, if I'm not sure whether it is a vegetarian or not, then I will avoid to eat such food in public.
Right. Right. It's a good lesson for us, right? That in future, that when you go to these kind of functions, be careful, be cautious what you're getting. You don't know. It can easily happen. Okay, let's go on. We've got some more questions coming here, actually. Oh, what happened here?
You can lower your hands and then again volunteer for the next question.
Somehow my thing went bad. Oh, okay. No.
You want to find
Okay, here's some more questions. Let's take the first one. When is it all right to eat in the homes of life members who invite us? Can we have some hands on this one? Number one. Have you got life members? It's more in India, but maybe other countries also. I know in Jakarta also, in Indonesia, Jakarta, there are life members, Hindus there. They may invite you to their home. So when is it all right to eat there?
Two hands.
Have we got any new people?
Geeta Indulekha Mataji.
Okay, Geeta Indulekha Mataji. Hare Krishna. Geeta Mataji, Geeta Indulekha.
Mataji,
Hare
I think you...
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Maharaj, Dandavat
Yes,
Pranam.
okay, Hare Krishna.
We should not eat at the homes of life home members because they are not following the rules and regulations. And it's in the only case if we want to make them like some satisfy them, and then only in case of some festival, so that they are cooking only the fast prasad, so they will cook it nicely. In that situation only can we should take prasad, otherwise not. Thank you,
You
Maharaj.
think all life members are like that? You don't think any life members are vegetarian or devotees?
No, most of the life members are not devotees. Just they have contributed just to get some even for name and fame. Also, they do this, and some out of yes, there are some devotees also. But we have to check if they are devotees. Then we can have. If they are not devotees, then we should not
Okay.
have prasadam at their
So
homes.
you have to check who's the devotee,
Yes,
right?
and yes, and if they are not devotees, then we can still have at when they are cooking for some it's day on some like fast, it's like a Kashi day or something, then they will cook it nicely for us, and we can help them in offering also, then show them also, then they will learn some things also. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Anybody else? We've got some more people here.
Lots of people.
Quite a few.
New is Priya Govindadas.
Priya Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
The only right time to take prasadam to the life members in the life members' house is only if they involve devotees in the preparation of that food only. And also if the food is offered to Krishna and the food is in the right, if they prepare the right food, that is, without onion and garlic and meat, then and offer to Krishna, that is the right time to take.
So have you ever gone to a life member's home and eaten? Haribol?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Did you ever go to a life member's home and have prasadam yet? Have you ever been there?
Yes, we had gone there carrying prasadam. We had gone there for a program. Of course, they were not impressed. They were not happy with us.
Huh?
They were not impressed by us because we didn't take their prasad. We had carried our own prasad from the temple.
They did not take prasadam at the life member.
You wouldn't take their food.
Yeah, we didn't take because we didn't know how they had prepared their food. But we had called them later on and told them we are carrying our own prasadam.
No. But they wanted you to take some of theirs, huh?
Yes, they had some little prasadam they insisted with, but we turned it down.
So didn't make a very nice relationship, huh? But we have to be strict.
Yes, all right.
So, but you told them before you came there, you'd already prepared them that you wouldn't be eating, that you'd be bringing.
Yes, we had told them.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's hear someone else. What about this Anandini Radhika Maharaji?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance. Maharaj, like, if service is included in that thing by eating prasadam at their home, to encourage them like more in the service of Srila Prabhupada's mission, or if I want to build a relation to preach or something like that, because I can tell them like, these are my food restrictions, all those things.
These are what?
Food restriction.
Oh,
Food restriction.
okay.
She's saying it is okay. She sometimes takes, but tells them in advance that these are my dietary restrictions.
Okay.
Don't eat these things.
Yeah, sometimes, life members can become also devotees, just by association, by giving them the opportunity to associate with devotees, they make advancement. However, I remember one time in England, one man came and he asked Prabhupada to come to his home. So Prabhupada asked him, do you eat meat? Do you cook meat at home? And the man said, yes. So Prabhupada said, then I won't come. So when Prabhupada said that to him, then the man changed. And he made this house vegetarian. He became vegetarian. He made everybody in the family vegetarian. And then the next year, Prabhupada went to his house. So like that, people they can learn, they get a good lesson if we tell them. We have to show them the right example. Okay. What somebody else? Adi Raj Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Usually whenever we do house programs, life members, what we do is usually they get excited to make something, to cook. So usually the devotee who arranged the program, he would mention to them how we eat, what we eat in a nice way, but also because it's important to encourage them, to accept Krishna consciousness. We try to, if they can't cook anything, a devotee would go to their home and help them, at least show them some little thing. Or we say we can accept fruit, and sometimes they're also okay with this. So, thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Okay, what about number 2? How important is it not to eat food cooked by karmis? Right? We'll hear from Swarupa Krishna Prabhu.
Then what's Maharaj? Consciousness is the moment we have food cooked by karmis, we also acquire their consciousness. So it is extremely important to avoid food cooked by karmis, because when karmis are preparing food, they are preparing for their sense gratification, and which is totally detrimental to our Krishna consciousness, development of Krishna consciousness in us. So we try to avoid. This is one point which comes to my mind.
So who is a karmi? How do you classify someone as a karmi?
Karmi is somebody who is putting in a huge amount of efforts for their livelihood and for their not only for themselves, their body, as well as their family.
Could somebody be a vegetarian and still be a karmi?
Could be a vegetarian, but may not be offering food to Krishna.
So he's still a karmi.
This is what I feel.
Okay.
I mean, yes, there could be devotees also. For example, when we are working, we may have karmi attitude in us. That's also there.
Yeah. Right. It's not easy thing to be a devotee, right? Gita Indulekha Maharaji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandot Pranam. Maharaj, in Vaishnav Sadachar book, it's written there कि food only prepared by and served by devotees should be taken. There is written over there कि foods prepared should be prepared also, and even served by devotees should be taken. So
What does it mean to be a devotee? Do they have to be, do you think have to be a member of ISKCON, or they could be a devotee without being in ISKCON?
No, but in that book it was mentioned, so it's according to ISKCON only, because the other devotees, there are some Krishna devotees who don't offer the food to even God, and even they don't know the standards of preparation. Some devotees don't know how to follow the regulative principles also, so only in ISKCON. The devotees of ISKCON who prepare their food, we should eat food prepared by them, and even they should serve us. I don't remember, there were 3 points written in that. I can remember only 2 points right now.
Okay. So you have a very high standard. You're only going to eat food cooked by ISKCON devotees.
Yes, Maharaj.
So you don't eat out. You never eat in a restaurant.
No, Maharaj.
Okay. So number 3, can we eat food cooked by machines? Did you ever have food like made by machines? Like, you know, pizzas, make pizza in the machine, or they make some sweets made by machines. Do you eat chocolate? Roshan Prabhu, Roshan Pradhan.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj. The food cooked by machine, but if it is offered to Krishna, then it can be taken as prasadam.
Okay. What kind of food? Have you taken some food cooked in machine?
Like oven is also a machine, so we make cakes for Krishna, so we can have that. Or pizzas, which is offered to Krishna.
Okay. Yeah. The noodles, you get noodles, you know, eat noodles, very common.
But not from outside the not from restaurant. We can have the food which is cooked in temple. Which is cooked in temple for Krishna. After offering, we can have.
Okay. Yeah, if it's cooked in the temple and then you offer to, that's the highest cooked in. But we're talking about some, you get some machines, you get some fast food, noodles, you know, the noodles that are already made, you just put them in the hot water, you eat them.
It should be avoided.
Should be avoided.
Yeah, should be avoided.
Okay. Tukaram Das. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Maharaj, in case if it doesn't have contain onion and garlic, and if we can offer it, so then I don't think then there is any problem.
Okay. If you have something like tomato sauce in a bottle, right? Tomato sauce, it's all cooked, ketchup, tomato ketchup. Would you use that?
Maharaj, in India, we see that it is written either it is no onion garlic. So we purchase it and we offer it and then we take it.
Yeah. Is that, but not in the temple, right? At home, you do that, but maybe not in the temple.
Maharaj, when we cook chow mein and other things in temple, I see that devotees use those bottles, soya sauce or chili sauce, tomato sauce.
Yeah. Standards vary. Different temples, different things. Some temples, they use the soya and everything, and soy sauce. What about number 4? Should we eat the meals provided on airplanes? Who's not spoken? The same people every time. Any new person? I'm muted again. Oh, Swarup Krishna Prabhu, yes.
Dandavat Maharaj. Maharaj, what I understand is that preparation of food is as important as offering of food, because during the preparation time itself, the mood that we have for offering or satisfy the Lord starts. I mean, it starts at the time of peeling, or it starts at the time of cutting and all that, and obviously at the time of cooking. So all those meals which are provided on aeroplanes, they are again cooked by machines and prepared with no intention of offering to Krishna or satisfying Krishna. So this thinking comes in my mind that we should avoid.
Okay. Okay, Baba Grahi Nandanandana Prabhu. Number 4, do you eat meals in the airplane?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, in my understanding, first of all, it is depending upon the level of the devotee and then time, place and circumstances. And first we have to think about the serving about the Krishna, and so that we can prepare everything and we can serve Krishna and we can carry. If that is not available, that means that service we cannot do, means then we have to come down a step and we have to do something else which is supportive to that point. The overview is, first of all, we have to try to serve Krishna first, not our senses, and then Krishna will give us the idea, guidance, everything, Maharaj.
Okay. But you know, Prabhupada has told us he didn't want us to eat meals in the airplane. Now, Prabhupada traveled in the airplanes a lot, but he would always bring his own prasadam with him. Of course, in Prabhupada's time, it was a bit easier. Nowadays, the security is so heavy that sometimes it's hard to carry anything. You can't carry any liquid, you can't carry any cooked things, and not so easy sometimes to get things in the airplane. But at least in Prabhupada's time, he didn't carry any. He brought his food, he brought a tiffin, and he would take his prasadam. He would only eat, you know, what they brought from the temple. He wouldn't eat the airplane food. He didn't, and he said there's even a purport there where he said he didn't want us to eat any of the meals cooked that they serve in the airplane. Maybe they give you, if they give you a banana or an apple or something like that, that's okay. But you don't want to take other things. in the airplanes.
Okay, Maharaj.
We should be prepared. As devotees, we should be prepared. We should have our own food that we carry. Not that we have to eat something or take something from them. Because, as you said, it's going to be cooked by karmis. It's not going to be pure.
Yes, Maharaj.
Cooked
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
by people who are not hygiene, not clean, not pure. Okay, so there's a, oh, Hare Krishna. One more thing before you go. Here's your homework before tomorrow. We want the man to tell us how to deal with the urge to speak and the mind's demands, and the women to tell us urges of the body and actions of anger. What is your strategy in dealing with these things? Have you got it? The man, tell us how you control, what's your strategy for conquering the urge to speak and the mind's demands and the marriages? We want your strategy, conquering the urge of the body and the actions of anger. How are you going to overcome these things? What's your plan? We know sometimes women can get very angry. Actually, let the women do the urge to speak and the actions of anger. Those two for the lead. For the ladies, the urge to speak, the actions of anger, and for the men, urges of the body and the mind's demands. More related to the men and to the women, right? The urges of the body and the mind's demands for the men, the urge to speak, actions of anger for the ladies. We want to hear, what is your strategy? How are you going to control them? How are you going to conquer over these things? We'll hear from you tomorrow night. We have class also tomorrow night. So please look over these things. Right? So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. We'll meet you tomorrow night, same time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Pranam, Maharaj. Thank you.
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you. Pranam. Hare Krishna, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. Thank you for coming today. For the class, I want to
There's
make an
feedback.
announcement that
We can't hear you now. I think someone's mic is on that shouldn't be on.
can please everyone mute their mics.
Can one of the co-hosts mute everyone? And then
Can
someone start speaking? Yes, Prabhu. Abhijit, Prabhu, now you can go ahead.
Yes. So now, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming. So my announcement is your attendance has been taken. I have taken your attendance based on the names in the participant list. So please, when you sign in, please use your actual names, initiated names, or if you're not initiated, your legal names. Because I'll just take the attendance from the participant list. It will take a very long time if you do a call and response for every single person in the group. So your attendance is already taken, and you have your homework for tomorrow. Your reading assignment, Maharaj, what would you like them to read for tomorrow?
Well, we'll go on to second text.
Second text. So you can read the second text for tomorrow's class. And tomorrow's class will be same time tomorrow. And we won't have classes on Saturday and Sunday. So that is, and Monday as well. Yes, we won't have classes Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So after tomorrow's class, we'll have 3 days no classes. Then Tuesday, and then again Wednesday is Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. So it is very important for all of us to attend in our respective temples. So we won't have a class on Wednesday either. So please take a note of that. I have posted on WhatsApp, but also you can note here, no class on Saturday, Sunday, as well as Monday and Wednesday. But we do have a class tomorrow. All right. If you have, yes, yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have my legal name on, not my initiated name. I don't know if that's an issue.
That is not an issue. I'll try to tally. If I'm missing anyone, I'll just let you know. I'll try to tally both your legal or initiated names in the list. Okay. Any other quick questions about course coordination? About the course, I mean.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, this class recording are we getting for this class, and when are we
Yes,
getting?
yes. This class has been recorded, and I will post the recording on WhatsApp soon. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow or later. I see a hand from Bhavagrahi Nandanandan Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
You were speaking right now?
Yes, Prabhu, I am the one.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions?
No, Prabhu,
Otherwise, we
I am
can.
going to speak. That means Bhavagrahi
Oh,
Nandan.
sorry, go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead, please.
Prabhu, actually, yesterday induction class, I was not there here. I was in batch 1. Today only I joined in the batch 2. So I shifted from there to here. So I was not there in the induction. So what can I do? How can I get there?
Orientation, Prabhuji, is the same. We go over so if you attended for batch 1, that should be good enough. We explain what the exam formats are. Do you know about the open book exam, closed book exam, and the shloka test, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's the same. We just go over that so that you are clear about how the assessments will be done. By the way, I want to give you a heads up that approximately the last class so this unit will have 9 or 10 classes. So approximately the last class will be on a Thursday or Friday. So just remember, your closed book exam will be immediately following the last class. There won't be any gap. So if the last class is on Thursday, your closed book exam will be on Friday. If the last class is on Friday, your closed book exam would be on Sunday. So please get started early on your preparations. And if you have any questions or confusions, you can reach out to me on either individually or on the group WhatsApp. All right. I just want to give a heads up. So you are all prepared. You know tentatively what's the time frame of the closed book exam. Also remember, your open book assessments will also be due on the same day, which is about 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks and maybe 3 or 4 days. So about 17 days or 16 days from now, your open book assessment questions will be given soon. And so please also keep that in mind. All right. Yes, Sarup Krishna Prabhu, you have a question?
Prabhuji, this closed book exam timings will be 5:30 to 7:30 or some other timings?
So I'll let you know. The timing will be, yes. If it is on Friday, that if you are doing the closed book exam with me or over Zoom, the timing will be 5:30 to 7:30, same time as the class. You do have the option of doing the closed book exam with your reference at your local temple. You could have a senior devotee or temple authorities at your local temple supervise your exam, and that way you can do it according to your convenience, according to a convenient time for you, but it must be supervised by your temple authority. So you have both options. All right. Hare Krishna. Okay, Ramesh Sharma Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
When should we submit our this sadhana sheets?
It will be due at the end of the unit. So the end of the unit is approximately 2 weeks from now. The Friday that is 2 weeks away from now. So not next week, but the week following that.
Sadhana sheet has to be of the particular day for every day. or at a glance?
It has to be for every day, but remember, we are not enforcing it so strictly, meaning it's for your own, it's your own initiative. So you should yourself feel like going for the morning program and attending it. And the sadhana is for every day. So when you submit, it will be an Excel sheet for every day of the unit,
Okay,
including
Prabhu.
Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Adi Raj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. In the student handbook, there are some questions. We're supposed to be working on those questions.
Which questions, Prabhuji?
There are questions on the preface and on the text.
Yes, the closed book, the Purva Swadhyaya questions for closed book exam. Are you referring to those questions?
I think I am. I'll have to double check, but yeah.
Yes, yes. Right. That's your question bank for the closed book exam. Please start working on them early.
Okay.
Write your answers taken from the text, the purports and the verses, and have them ready. Then you will also have to start memorizing them, because the closed book exam will take some questions from there. The questions will come out of those, and you have to memorize the answers and write them in the closed book exam. All
Also
right.
for the OBA open book, like, are the questions in the handbook itself, or is it something that will be provided on the class?
The question set is in the handbook, but soon we will provide you with we'll post on WhatsApp group the open book questions, which will refer to your handbook. So the questions are already there in the handbook, but we'll give you 2 out of the 6 or so that are there. All right. So you only have to do 2 essays.
Okay.
And again, my humble request to everyone, please get started early, because at the last minute you will have everything due at the same time and things may get very stressed. Right. Archana Bhakti Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam. Pranam Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I just wanted to understand this open book assessment. Suppose you give the questions and we start working on it. So, how do we have to type it in the computer and then send it to you on the mail, or can we write it and then take a picture and send it to you? How do we do about it?
Either is fine.
No,
Either is fine.
They should type it.
Because writing something you can't read it.
Oh, okay.
It's something very hard to read something to write. Everybody, this stage, everybody has to
Everybody can type, and yes, Mataji, you have to type it out, or you can request someone in your some devotee in your local temple who can, if you cannot type yourself, they can type it for you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And second question, Prabhuji, in the sadhana sheet, because I'm in Chennai, the temple is pretty far away and it's not open to public also. Very few, it's restricted basically. So all these sadhana things, that is the Mangal Aarti, Tulsi Aarti, Guru Puja, and these things, like whatever I do regularly, can I put that? How should it be like?
1 second, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, please hold on for a moment.
Yeah, you just, yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, regarding attendance in the temple program, if the temple is far away, you can observe at your home. There are 2 ways to observe at your home. One is you could do the Aarti at the same time in your home altar, if you have photo of Krishna or Gauranitai, or
Yes, Prabhuji.
you could attend on Mayapur TV.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Mayapur TV has streaming Mangal Aarti and Guru Puja and Bhagavatam class.
I have deities at home, Prabhuji, and I do Aarti daily, Prabhuji.
Oh, wonderful. Then you are fine. You can.
What is this late thing, Prabhuji? It's there in date Mangal Aarti and it's written late at home. What is this late, Prabhuji?
Late means that it's supposed to be at 4:30 if you got delayed.
Yeah.
So
But at
in sadhana,
home,
timing is very important. Mangal Aarti at 4:30, Bhagavatam class at 8 AM.
and chanting by 7 a.m.
Prabhuji, but at home it is normally little late only, Prabhuji.
That's fine, Mataji. Don't worry too much about it. It is for your own. It is for your own practice. So
Okay,
we won't be penalizing so heavily about these issues. It's just to get you on that sadhana routine. That's all.
Okay, fine, Prabhuji. Thank you
Nothing
so
to
much.
worry
Hare Krishna.
about that.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Ramesh Sharma Prabhu, I think you already asked. Do you have a new question or that was from before?
Oh, that was from before, Prabhuji.
All right. So I see we have addressed your questions for now. If you have any further questions, please feel free to post them on the group WhatsApp or reach out to me individually over WhatsApp. All right. So we will conclude today's session right here. Vancha kalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha
Patitana pavanembhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
namo